Welcome everyone to the ASCCA forum for the month of May. You're most welcome to join us today, and we have a guest speaker. I acknowledge the presence of our president, Jennifer Willcox, who will start off today by telling us a lot about getting your digital ducks in a row before you drop dead. Over to you, Jenny.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everyone. I would have to tell you that that isn't my take on it. It's Natika's. She thinks it's funny. When you get near the time, it isn't so funny. And I call it taking control of your own hereafter. So I just wanted to give you a brief rundown today of a workshop that I devised quite a few years ago. And I continue to deliver it quite a few times a year, actually, in different locations. But I wanted to just impart the information that not so much in depth today, but just give you an idea of the topics that are covered and how they can be integrated into club forums, in your own club, little breakout special interest groups, and actually take the fact that, you know, clubs are providing the lessons to learn, and this provides something to do with the skills that are learned, and while they're doing it for themselves as well, the members, because we all know that during our life we just gather bits and pieces for about 40 or so years, and we think that we're going to leave it all to the kids. Well, you know, half the time the kids don't really want it because they class it as junk. So you're better off actually, you know, the saying is that the first thing they do is, you know, when you've dropped off your perch, is to go and order a skip bin for the verge and pile all your goodies into that. So if you want to have a bit of a say as to what happens, there's ways and means that you can do that for yourself without it costing an arm and a leg to go to a professional as well. I'm not an expert in this, but I've had a hell of a lot of experience with family members, and I've found over the years quite a lot of pitfalls that are just waiting there to gather us up and probably take away the control that you really could and should have. So I've got a bit of a briefing, and a lot of people sort of say to me, "Oh, it's okay, Jenny, I've got a will." And they think that a will is the be all and end all of everything. Well, that's only one aspect of very many. And in this digital world, you know, you really have to take care of your digital estate as well as your physical estate, and still keep all the members of your family happy as well. So what I've done is I've done a list, and I'm not sharing any screens. You just got me, take it or leave it. So the first thing really is to, before death, I've broken a whole lot of resources into before death preparation and after death tasks. And the first one is perhaps considering getting an enduring power of attorney, so that maybe your kids can be your power of attorney if and when required, to step in and, you know, take over some business aspects for you when you're not able to do it. I'm power of attorney for half of Walpole, but I'm also power of attorney for my dad, who in a couple of weeks is going to turn 101. So he's got failing sight, and so I do his internet banking. So that's that, and you know, I have a bit of a say, as my daughter does too. She visits him every 2 years, 2 days, 2 years, God no, 2 days. He still lives in our family home on his own, and he doesn't have any help apart from her. So, you know, he's pretty lucky, and we're pretty lucky too. But he's starting to acknowledge the fact that he needs some help, and he can be a bit pig-headed sometimes. He's has been right up until now, but he realises that there is help out there and assistance. So yeah, we're looking at you know, he has got a living will, and I think that's a good idea. That's an advanced health directive. So all the resources that I have researched and provided, I've got a whole lot from state government departments in Western Australia, and I've also done them for New South Wales, but I haven't done them for any other state. But they would be very similar in other states. In Western Australia, we're particularly lucky here because we've got a Citizens Advice Bureau, and that was an organisation that was devised in the UK, brought over to Australia, and for some reason didn't sort of have the legs to last in the other states, but it certainly does here in WA, and they provide lots of legal advice on their website, and much of it is applicable Australia-wide, not just in WA. So all the information that I provide in the resources, it has been sourced from reputable sources. Yes. So with a will, there's no reason why you can't sort of draw up your own will, and there's lots of templates around. And just keep in mind that if you're going to ask someone to be, or you want someone to be an executor to manage your estate after you've passed away, it's always courteous to ask them if they would be prepared to be an executor. That is a bit of an onerous task, and not everybody's up to the mark. And it's really, I think, it's a lonely job as well. So, you know, someone has to have a few smarts about them to be able to, and the time to be able to deliver all that is needed. And it doesn't hurt to have a digital executor as well to look after all the digital assets, because as you probably know, Facebook is absolutely chock-a-block of people who've died, and because their friends and relations don't know how to memorialise their account or remove their profile from LinkedIn or whatever. So there's lots of procedures that can be undertaken by a digital executor, and they can then also be a second sort of sounding board to the physical executor, because you know, you don't divulge personal information to the family or anyone else. So that's why it's a lonely sort of a job. You have to make the decisions yourself. Also too, a lot of people think, you know, yep, I've got a will, that's fine, all honky-dory, but then they forget the little things that end up in the skip bin. So it doesn't hurt to have a codicil. Now, a codicil doesn't need to be witnessed like a will, but it needs to be signed and dated and kept with the will, and it can cover the more sort of, I shouldn't say trivial so much, because it can include cars and boats and whatever, but also all the little, say in the case of perhaps say my sister, she had a codicil, and some of the things that she asked me to dispose of were, for example, her cat collection. She was cat crazy, and she had all this cat memorabilia, and she wanted it all donated to the Cat Haven. Well, it took us ages to pack it all up. I still found some afterwards as well, but we took 9 large boxes of brand new cat memorabilia to the Cat Haven, and they were so welcomed with it. They used it as prizes for their forthcoming quiz night and did it in her memory. So had I not been instructed to do that, you know, I might have heave-hoed it over the back fence or something. So, and you know, there's all these other bits and pieces. So those sort of things in a codicil, they come down to the more emotional type gifts that you can make. So my dad has given me instructions on who gets what out of his war medals. So, but I've also got this personal affairs book, and it, in some respects, it's a little bit like a one-stop shop Bible. So Have we got it, or we haven't?
No.
Have we got it? Okay, all right. Aha,
Lower
you
down.
have there.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is available in Word format, and it's got all the blank spaces to fill in insurance policies and whatever, so that, like, when someone passes away, there's not much point in rummaging through boxes and filing cabinets looking for bits and pieces of important papers. So it doesn't matter if you need to look at them, but the book is like a Bible, and it's got all the details in it. Yes. So I think there's lots of things that clubs can take on board and maybe guide some of their members into doing these sort of things for themselves. And I think a lot of people are reluctant to talk about it because you know, death is a very serious sort of occurrence in a family. If it's all done beforehand, it can be done in a bit of a light-hearted way, and a little bit more care can be taken, you know, with the thoughts about what happens and whatever. I think also too, one should remember the superannuation, which doesn't form part of an estate, and so you can have different beneficiaries in a superannuation situation rather than different to a will. What else was I going to say? Oh, I think too, something that is really good with clubs and their members is to perhaps have a special interest group where people can write their memoirs or their life history or whatever. And some people in Walpole have actually done that. And one lady in particular, she used to be in the RAAF during the Second World War, and she was a typist, a telegrapher or something, but she knew the keyboard, except arthritis got her little fingers. So we managed to get through connecting up a laptop for her, and she typed her life history in chapters, and we put it into book format, and she donated it to one copy to each of her family for Christmas. And then she moved from the farm to town, and they said, oh, well, you know, you should write your last chapter. So we recalled all the books, and she wrote the last chapter, and we inserted it. And now she's passed away, but everybody's got that lovely memory of her life that she wrote herself. And there's no reason why clubs and tutors and that can't get together and do something meaningful rather than just learn Word for the sake of learning Word. You can do something, you know, really meaningful with it. A lot of local histories have been written like that as well, and I've done quite a few. There's one in particular that was typed many years ago on a manual typewriter, and I scanned it in OCR, which converted the type to editable text, and it's going to be published soon. And it was about pioneers who came to a river district near here where I live. On that topic, I might ask Natika, because technologically there's been an advancement on OCR, and we were talking about it earlier. So do you want to break in now while the topic's hot, Teak?
Right, so can you see on there, I've got this is the Native Photos app on Apple, and you can see down the bottom there's a little icon. So I can actually, it's easier if I look at it straight up. I can see how it is all highlighted, the text is highlighted, and the copy option comes up. So you don't even need a scanner with OCR anymore. It's built into your smartphone, because see at the top it says copy. So if I copy that text, and then I can go and paste that into a, so now I will share this screen with you. If I just click paste, you can see that's now the transcript of that story. that I've just taken a photo of out of the newspaper here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be 100% accurate all of the time. You're probably going to have to do a bit of editing and stuff, but it sure does save you from typing it all up again. So, yeah.
That's really good, because OCR certainly does have its drawbacks. It doesn't, especially if it's scanning from a manual typewriter. A Remington always used to have a little serif or something on top of some of the letters, or the number 8, and the OCR had difficulty. So there's quite, well, a reasonable amount of editing, but it sure beats retyping the whole thing, definitely, but that's even better. Yeah, so that's really good. So one of the other things, I'll get back to the list, is preparing for your own funeral and taking control over, you know, the actual service and how you might like it to be run. Usually there's about a week between death and a funeral, and quite often everyone is very busy and grief-stricken to perhaps pay a lot of attention to the service itself. And quite often these days an electronic presentation is shown, and quite often it's given to a young grandson or granddaughter to quickly do this for Gran, and off they go with a shoebox full of photos, and they wouldn't have a clue who the little girl is up the plum tree, or whether, you know, that was really Gran, or what her favourite photo was, or her favourite flower or music or anything like that. And this way, if you've got all that at your fingertips while you're alive, you might as well put it together. And I think this is something where clubs can perhaps take, you know, learning PowerPoint, for instance, take it to the next level and let people make their own eulogies or even their family stories. There was one lady in Walpole who did her own eulogy, and she passed away, and it was played at her wake, and it brought the house down. And I've since turned it into a video, because you can do that in PowerPoint. So yeah, there's lots of things, and I think, you know, lots of people can learn to do their memories of their trips. And if they wanted to take it a few steps further, they could open up a YouTube channel and you know, put their videos of their past trips on YouTube, and it just sort of keeps them in the current era and takes the learning to like another level. But all of those things are pre-death, and then after the death, you know, comes the execution of the will and the distribution of the estate, and organising the funeral director. And a lot of things can be seen with, or received, not so much seen, well, witnessed, emotional blackmail at a very vulnerable time. So if you've got it all sort of sorted out as to how you want it, it's really good for the family left behind, because they follow the instructions and they're not pressured by $600 flower arrangement to go on a coffin and things like that, because they're made out to be perhaps mingy or mean if they didn't spend the money. And then, of course, probate these days for an executor, that can be done online. It's the onerous job of submitting documents. Well, you still have to put the original death certificate and things like that in, but the rest of it can be all done online, and it's really, really easy, and it's quite a satisfying job to be an executor of an estate. And then, of course, it's the distribution of the funds. But things like this, I think there's so many aspects within the whole taking control of your own hereafter, that clubs could have little interest sessions with their members, and everyone share their stories, or take it a little bit further with the learning aspect of doing something practical with the skills that they've learned. So if anyone is interested, yes, we do sessions on this via Zoom. take a lot longer than what I've just taken today. So that's my lot. Any questions?
Thank you, Jenny. We'll have a look through the chat. I don't actually see a question there. There's a lot of links, though, that you should save after this meeting. You can save your chat and save the transcript as well, if you turn that on. Does anyone have a question of Jenny?
Yes, please. What's a living will?
A living will is an advanced health directive. And in Western Australia, there's a whole form put out by the Department of Health, and you fill it out in conjunction with your doctor, and it covers things like, you know, if you, in what case and what instance you might like to be resuscitated or not resuscitated, or, you know, left on the side of the road to die, or whatever you want, because it's registered on my health record. And just for, you know, hypothetical, because when you're not near death, you can, this is why you can deal with it, because you can have a bit of a joke about the whole thing and stay in control of it. But, you know, just hypothetically, if you were in a car accident, or not even in a car accident, if you ended up in an ambulance and you were near death, and see, the medical profession have this Hippocratic oath that they are duty bound to keep you alive. So if you're going to end up as a vegetable, and you sure as hell don't want to be, well, you can do an advanced health directive, and then it's registered on my health record, and all AMBOs are fitted out with iPads that are connected to the internet, and they'll log into your account and see you've got an advanced health directive, and it says do not resuscitate under these circumstances, and that relieves them of the responsibility to try and keep you alive. Yeah.
Good one. Thanks, Jenny. I have another question. Can an executor cancel Facebook for you?
Yes. If they've got all the passwords in that, yes, of course they can.
So
yes.
If I could jump in there though too, Jen, there is a function with a lot of online accounts these days, Ralph, where you can set up somebody in the back end of your settings before you pass away. Apple's very good at it. You can allow somebody access to your account in the event of your death, same as with Facebook. I know that if that's not set up, it is a little bit challenging to memorialise or take down Facebook pages. My mum went through something similar.
Well, Apple actually put out instructions, and I've got all of those for Apple, Android, and Facebook Memorial and things like that of how to do it. Yes, LinkedIn.
Because
Sandra's got a question.
Yeah, thank you.
I had an additional comment to make about the living will and about your wishes. This comes from somebody whose husband passed away in hospital, and our solicitor has also said, make sure your family are well aware of what you state in your living will, because they can override it if they don't agree. In New South Wales, anyway. So sure they know, and they know your wishes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that they can override it in Western Australia. It's signed and witnessed in front of the doctor, and it's uploaded to the Services Australia website, and a copy is expected to be put in a very prominent position. My dad's is on the side of the fridge, so that if paramedics come in for whatever reason, they'll see it there first up, and they know then. But we have to. He's only just released 3 keys to people to get in, so like it could have been there for 2 days, and no one can even get in the house. So we're little bit by little bit we're getting there. But yes, everyone should know, absolutely, and they certainly do in our family. Yes.
Everyone should understand that everything that goes on Facebook stays on Facebook, even though they may memorialise the account.
Oh, yes.
All that means is that no extra posts can be made on that account, but people can still read what was there in the past.
Yes, yes,
Even if it's cancelled.
But I don't know that it cancels.
I don't think it actually does cancel. My son cancelled his account, but certain parts of it are still there. You know, I can still go and search him. And
Facebook hides certain things after a period of time, so that anybody that looks at your account can't see everything. But some of the earlier posts and photos and things like that might still be there. You just can't you can't add to it, make any comment or anything else.
But there are instances where I have seen people who've passed away, their family hasn't known how to memorialise their account, and then they've been used as a replica alias type thing to put some unsavoury things out there. So it's better to perhaps put things in order so that that doesn't happen as well. Yeah.
It's the same with the family albums and stuff like that. You know, that's why it's important to give access to the family after you pass away. I mean, I've got all of my kids' photos. I've been taking digital photos for 20 years now, and they're all in my Apple ID, locked in my iCloud. So if they want the family photos, you're going to have to give them access somehow.
Passwords. Exactly, that's right. And it's a bigger job than you sort of think immediately, being a digital executor. So that's why it's not half a bad idea to be a digital have a digital executor as well as a regular executor, because you know each have got quite onerous and complex tasks, and to lump it, if you've got like Natika, an account on everything that's online, it's quite a big job.
Hey, I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok.
Me either.
Yeah,
we'll never be on TikTok.
But the physical part, you know, is quite onerous, time consuming and all the rest of it. So to sort of share the load and allow for collaboration between the two executors is also a good idea.
Just a comment question. If you have a password manager,
yes,
how do you deal with that? Apart from writing it in a document somewhere, is there a way of doing similar to Apple with the password manager, I wonder?
So with that, sorry, Jen, if I could jump in with that.
No,
if you have appointed a digital executor, you would give them your iCloud details, and you would appoint them in your Apple ID as your legacy contact, I think are the words that
it is legacy contact.
Yep. And so all of my passwords, I do need to tidy them up, but they are all in my keychain. So they just need access to that one account, and then they've got access to everything. So
a digital executor needs to be aware of that, because of our globalisation and accounts being held in different countries, you're looking at different legal jurisdictions, and any of those accounts, you've got to have a look through the terms and conditions of accounts and what will be allowed and what won't be allowed. I think Google had, I don't know whether they're still the same, but at one point they, once you passed, account was dead and nobody could access it and get anything out of it.
I think that's what those legacy contacts are for. So so that you can, because if everyone's got their photo libraries, can you imagine a future archaeologist, a digital archaeologist, cracking through the digital ruins and finding photos of their great-great-grannies, going instead of the beautiful photos that we have these days of our great-great-grannies? That's probably what will happen.
Perhaps it may not be legal, but perhaps an example of crossing these international borders, to have your digital executor go into the various accounts and do what they need to do prior to making it known that the owner of the account had died, because some of them, once they're dead, the account's locked out.
I'm just Googling to see if Google has a legacy contact function for you, Gary.
And if
Barry.
some are ancient like me and still have a actual password book.
Yeah.
So,
And that becomes very difficult when people don't change the passwords in there or write them on scraps of paper. Yes, tell me about it when we go to sort out people and their passwords.
Or your family don't know where to find that book.
Yeah.
And it gets chucked out in the skip
and
bin.
this is where the personal records register comes in, because you would put that in it, along with where the policy of the house insurance and the car rego and the solicitor and the mortgage and the where you were born, where the birth certificates are, and all of that sort of stuff. The password book is just as important, if not more important in some cases.
So the Washington Post had an article last year about Google's legacy contact. Google lets you pick exactly what data categories are included and will be available to your backup contact. It's a long list and includes 52 options, from basics like contacts and photos to technical details such as the Android device configuration service. So that's from May last year, so that's 12 months old.
So that's that.
Yeah, but most of them, I think, are moving towards legacy contacts. So
they're coming slowly with the change of the fact that we are a global community.
And the world's ruled by the internet.
Yeah,
absolutely.
During the week, Jenny did contact Webster's, which is an insurance agent, to ask whether they still had special things organised for user groups. And she wrote a lengthy email to Suzanne Stevenson, who is now seems to be running everything for Webster's. And her response was, as you are aware, any schemes that we had in place with underwriters for interest groups / non-profit groups ceased some years back. Insurers withdrew their support, providing discounted rates, as it was not productive to continue with the existing schemes, as this area of clientele often is high touch and required a lot of attention. We still continue to happily provide service to several long-term groups, and they would be still receiving the benefit of accounts applied previously. But unfortunately, for any new clients to Webster's, we are only able to provide technical rates. When approached, we see that it is currently available and provide this option to the group. We're more than happy to help where we are able, but we are not actively driving to grow this book. We help when we can see, as we are fully aware of how difficult it is these days for a group to manage financially. And that's signed by Suzanne Stevenson. In other words, if you did once have a discount through Webster's, that will continue. If you want to ask any insurance agent for your insurance, it will all be full price. Also, having done this recently, I discovered that the agents take an agent's fee of $100 a time, which means, that by the time you've paid the agent's fee and the stamp duty, it can go up by a lot of money. So you need to be explicit in what you need insurance for, and every user group will be different. So
the reason I needed to write to Webster's was because they're ASCCA's insurers, and due to the fact that we don't now have premises in Pitt Street, Sydney, and quite a few of our, well, pretty well all of our staff have moved on one way or another. So ASCCA's physical sort of need for insurances has diminished quite considerably, and we've had communication from a number of member clubs asking if that discount still applied to member clubs. So I thought it was relevant that we get it clarified, because at one stage we did have it listed as a benefit for club membership on our website, and until that was clarified, we didn't put it up. So now it's been clarified, we won't put it up. But you're right about the brokerage fee. I'm involved with a body corporate in Perth, and I've just done the insurance for them, and it never used to be a brokerage fee at all, and everyone's charging about $100 now. Yeah. And so when you're looking at, you know, certain insurance, say for volunteers through Aon, which is the most popular insurer for volunteers, you know, and you go through a broker, they add $100 onto your costs. So maybe it's better to, you know, let your fingers do the walking yourself.
I'd like to move now to Natika so that she can give us the Be Connected update. Please, Natika.
Sure. You might notice that I'm wearing slightly warmer clothing than I normally do. So I'm not in Kansas
Welcome
anymore.
to the South.
I'm only about a couple of 100 kilometres away from Jenny at the moment. So it is a little bit
120.
cooler. Yeah. So I've been on the road teaching digital mentors, Barb being one of our newest. Welcome, Barb. So Barb attended on Monday in Perth. We had 10 new digital mentors in Perth, representing various museums, galleries, library services and family centres around the Perth Metro and Peel area. And then on Wednesday, I did the same again in a little town called Katanning. Hands up who's heard of Katanning?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, there's a few of us there, not just the West Aussies, which is in the Great Southern region of WA. And we had another 8 digital mentors attend that day from community resource centres from towns like Dumbleyung. Who's heard of Dumbleyung? No? Ongerup? Oh, yes. Katanning, Ongerup, Dumbleyung and Tambler. And there was one more. Oh, Lake Grace. So few of our little Great Southern towns that came along. So yeah, I'm supposed to be training more today here in Albany, but we didn't manage to get our ducks in a row for that one. So my next lot will be in Port Hedland on Tuesday week. So if anybody knows anyone in Port Hedland who needs to do digital mentor training, please let them know. And then I'll be in Broome on Thursday week. So not next week, the week after. And that means we've got 7 more digital mentors to train under this current project. And then we've met our target for this round. Jen and I are in current, we're in current discussion. No, 50. We go regional standards.
Oh,
We go regional.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to have 100 if we go there. And I thought, no.
No, I know. So because we're servicing little towns, you know, it's really tough to find your 100. So, and it's a big state, as you're all aware. So we Jen and I are just about to discuss on Tuesday next week if we proceed with round 9 and who our targets are for that. So if you've got any ideas, please feel free to drop an email to either beconnected@ascca.org.au or ascca@ascca.org.au and give us some ideas, because we'll probably go back to delivering via Zoom because we can reach further afield. So if there's other outlying regional areas, we're going to approach them.
Considering that she lives 4,000 kilometres away from me, we actually meet every week. Doesn't matter where we are in the world. We've even met when I was overseas last year, and Teak was in Tasmania earlier. So, you know, this is the power of technology, and it's so much better these days than when the CRC network sort of rolled it out in 2010. And you know, there's no reason why everyone can't jump on board. And I think overcoming the barriers, that's the hard part, because a lot of people think, oh, you know, how can they learn something because they don't even know how to turn their device on, and it's difficult when they're remote. But we've devised ways and means to overcome that as well. So I don't think no one needs to be left unconnected for sure. Yes. And talking about small towns, I was talking to someone from Susan's Club Awesome the other day, and they, at one stage recently, they have 400 members just in their club. Well, the town I live in doesn't even have 400 population in the whole town.
Let alone seniors in that age, you know, people in that age
That's
bracket.
Right.
Jenny, would you like to talk to us about the presentations that are available through ASCCA?
I'll briefly touch on it, Susan, because it is just sort of, it's raised its head in very recent times and we haven't really had anything ratified by the board. But there are a number of, as everyone knows, we used to do face-to-face lessons in Pitt Street, Sydney. And due to COVID, that had to stop. So our trainer then reverted to doing online lessons. And then Jane Martin has retired, and we haven't found anyone to fill her spot. And in the meantime, we've been throwing the idea around for the last few months on an online form of delivery, and who we can support and bring under the new umbrella. And I did mention in January about the possibility of an e-club. Now, you haven't heard any more about that because it's still in the melting pot as to how it would be delivered. But in the meantime, there are some presentations that are current, and one of them is by Director Brett Levy, who did a marvellous presentation on ChatGPT a few months ago on this club's forum. And I think if you had to pay for a seat, it would have been a sellout. And it's taken on. He was the one who introduced us to it till he brought it to our table. No one had heard of it. And now he's been asked to deliver it into the UK. And that's sort of taking it, you know, really quite wide and far. And the briefing that I gave you earlier, I actually do that as a 3 or 4 hour workshop. So there's a few bits and pieces coming along like that. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you know, how much does ASCCA charge? Well, they're not really online lessons, so we don't actually charge anything. So we're having a bit of a think about if any clubs wanted to take them up. You know, people do give up their time and effort and the research that goes into it. So we're mulling around whether to put a fee on it or just make it a donation to ASCCA, because ASCCA's a charity and we have that facility on our website. So watch this space. Nothing is decided yet, but we certainly can be mobile and we certainly can deliver these sorts of workshops and others. Natika does Canva, and we're pressuring her to, in her spare time, whatever that is, to perhaps do MailChimp. And there's a few bits and pieces like that I thought up for the e-club as well. So we've got a lot perhaps to think about ourselves, and we're just putting it out there that we might have a range of things available that where we can beam into your club from anywhere in Australia and deliver the workshops for you.
That sounds really good. What do you think of that, Sandra?
I think that's amazing. That particularly, I know personally I would be interested in the ChatGPT, and I think a lot of people would just to hear about that. I must have missed that somewhere along the line. The workshop on the legacy, we've discussed this before, Jenny, and it's just finding a time and getting the interested people. Yeah, and I think promoting it within the club should have some people. Some will go, oh no, I don't want to do that, but there will be some people who really want to take advantage of that.
Yes, yes. I delivered that at the City of Belmont a couple of weeks ago in Perth, and there were 25 people turned up.
Wow.
So, you know, it's relevant, and in many respects it's necessary, but as you say, a lot of people aren't in that space to acknowledge and recognise the need. They'd sort of go to bowls or watch Days of Our Lives or something. It's sort of like a topic that out of sight, out of mind, and they put it off as long as they can, but sometimes it can be put off for too long.
One of our tutors, Bitsy Gordon, her son is in financial planning, and he wrote a book after somebody said to him, came into his office and said, the bugger went and died and I don't know what to do. So he wrote a book, the bugger went and died, now I don't know what to do. And it's a little tiny little A5 book, and it has some instructions in it. And that he came one of our
members' morning tea.
Yeah, or something like that. And he talked to the book and about the book and just generally gave some other chat. He did have it there if anybody really wanted it.
Probably about 5 years ago now.
He wasn't pushing it. But that sparked a lot of interest at the time.
Yes, yes. Well, you see, I started this in 2015 after the death of my sister. And I thought, you know, she knew she was going to die, and she asked me to be her executor. And she had a codicil and she had a list of instructions. And I thought, you know, she was so organised that I really need to tell other people to be as organised as her, because it made it very easy for me as the sole executor to follow her instructions. And you know, death can sometimes bring out the worst in people, and everyone's fighting over the kettle or whatever. And, you know, if you've got the instructions there, there's no arguments. You just follow the instructions.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dead easy. And my daughter said to me, well, while you're doing all this, you better do your own.
Well, my grandmother was very organised. She had, I was her executor, and she'd gone through and consulted with various members of the family, particularly my cousins, and where there were little mementos and things that she wanted them to have, she told them about it, and then she had a sticky label on the bottom of them. So
exactly.
So when the time came, and as far as distribution of her assets, it made my job a lot easier, because it was right down the line as to who I had to give what to.
Yes, I totally agree, Barry. Absolutely, yes. It's all good. And I've got some little mementos here from past neighbours, even when I was a kid, who lived next door to mum and dad, you know, and they did that. And I've got little vases and whatever. So it's the way to go. Beats a skip bin any day.
Sure does.
Well, Sandra reckons she's going to put me in the skip bin.
He doesn't start downsizing.
Anyone else want to make a comment on?
Maybe we need a workshop on that.
Good idea.
Ralph wants to interrupt. He's got his hand.
No, interrupt isn't the right word. It's another subject. I want to ask, do you ever look at your MailChimp statistics? Like how many people or of your members actually open the newsletter, or how many I don't know, join in the Zoom discussions? You know, analyze your statistics.
We have a look. I wouldn't call it an analysis, but I have a rough idea. We're tracking all right for the type of organisation that we are. We get good engagement with opening the MailChimps overall, but it's not something that I have.
Good. Please know.
We also have the stats on the website as well.
Yes, so we've got a 42.8% open rate, which according to MailChimp is good. That was on the last month, so the last 30 days.
Why are you asking this question, Ralph?
Yeah.
I have been looking at our MailChimp statistics.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the number of people who open our newsletter. and I thought 65% was terrible. I really didn't know what was normal or what to expect, but these are people who have paid to be members of our club. Why don't they open the thing?
It's
And
well, if I could interject, Ralph, I've been at a workshop in the past it was a social media one, which this is sort of like a flow on from social media. And her attitude was that it was pitching to tourism and hospitality businesses that in social media world, you need to be posting every single day, at least once, if not twice a day. And one of my colleagues sat there and went, if you put stuff on your Facebook as a business every single day, I'd unsubscribe, I'd take myself out of it. And but then the lecturer or the person presenting came back and said, well, you're not putting out what they want. So, and I mean, we're so bombarded by stuff in our inboxes, in our social media feed, etc. So you've really got to either ask them what it is they want and how they want to consume it, and then make yourself fit with that, or, you know.
Well, the only means I have to communicate with them is the newsletter, and if they're reading it, I'm preaching to the converted, and if they're not opening it, I'm talking to the wall or talking to the hand.
Absolutely.
You're getting
Well, in actual fact,
excellent engagement at 62% open rate. So please don't beat yourself up.
It is good. Yes. But the thing is, ASCCA is also looking at its mail out in the same light, because you know, we've always made it a ruling that we don't ask for or expect access to particular, like, individual members' contact details, because we have affiliated clubs, and you know, there's a hierarchical line that you don't cross over. So we send our newsletter out to the clubs, and the clubs receive it, and the gatekeeper, and we sometimes have to question if that gatekeeper reads it. Does the gatekeeper even share it amongst the committee, and do they redistribute it to the actual club members? We don't know.
Well, I add
We'd love to know.
Newsletter.
I add the ASCCA newsletter to our newsletter. Well, the email that I send out with our newsletter, and I put the ASCCA one and our club one on there together, so they get both.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
And Ralph wants to say something else.
Oh no, that's it. Thanks.
Natika, if I can ask a question, with the recordings of these forum meetings, where do I find it on the ASCCA website? All I found is one that was dated back a couple of years ago.
So there should be a direct feed straight onto the homepage, and I am a little bit behind schedule with these because I am editing bits out from time to time as well. So it's the last couple of months has just, Westnet's business email hosting has thrown a major spanner in the works for me.